I love this recipe. It's very simple, not a lot of ingredients. Everybody should have a roast chicken recipe in their back pocket. No crazy techniques, just good, kind of wholesome, delicious food. Easy, family favorite. Hey y'all, I'm Jakub Czyszczon from Garrison Restaurant here in Austin, Texas. And today we're gonna be making a beautiful roasted chicken with charred cabbage and salsa verde. First thing we're gonna do is make the brine for our chicken. To make our brine, I have filled up this large stock pot with water, and we are going to make a sachet with 3 lemons, a head of garlic, a full bunch of thyme, some peppercorns, and we're going to make sure that the water is very heavily salted. So now that I have all my ingredients in this cheesecloth, we're just gonna kind of make a pouch so that we don't have to fish all of these ingredients out. Nothing has to be cut perfectly. This is just for flavor. We're gonna put our sachet into the stock pot. And finally, we're gonna add our salt to the water. You don't have to worry too much about mixing it now. The rapid boiling will just incorporate everything together. All right, now I'm gonna take my stock pot and put it on the stove over high heat. Our brine is done, so I'm gonna pull out the sachet that we've left inside of it, and then we could just leave the brine inside the pot, and we're going to let it cool down slightly at room temperature, and then you can place it directly in your fridge until it's chilled. Our brine is chilling, it's time to truss the chicken. Trussing a chicken is very important because it keeps everything tight so that it all cooks very evenly. First thing we'll do before we get with our twine is I'm gonna pull the wishbone out. The reason why we pull the wishbone out of the chicken is so that when you are carving the bird after it's done cooking, it doesn't block your knife, so you get a nice clean cut off the breast. There's our wishbone, and we're just gonna discard that. Now we can truss the chicken. We're gonna take these 2 wings and we're gonna fold them underneath like so. And then we are going to take our twine. You can use thread if you don't have butcher's twine, but butcher's twine is ideal. We're gonna take the chicken, make sure that the neck bone sticks out a little bit, and we're going to wrap the twine in front of the neck and underneath the wings. And then we're going to tuck it back here. And then we're going to tie a double loop knot right here to make sure that the skin is nice and stretched. And then next we're going to wrap our twine under the drumsticks and then do another loop, double loop. And then we're going to make sure that is nice and tight. And then now we can finish with one more knot. And then we're going to cut off our excess twine. Now that our chicken is trussed, it's time to grab the brine, and then we're going to put our chicken inside. And we are going to brine this chicken inside of a brining bag to make it easier. So we're going to stick our chicken into the bag. And a brining bag will actually be better because you will use less brine, and you can save this brine and brine chicken wings, drumsticks, pork even. You can brine overnight, but it's very versatile. Now, ooh, can I have like a bowl? I've never
used a brine bag. Inside of a brining bag to make it easier.
There we go. So we're gonna take our chicken that's in our brine bag with our brine, and we're gonna put this in the fridge. And this chicken will brine for 6 hours, but can brine up to overnight. We're gonna prep the cabbage. We're gonna cut this bottom core off here, and you wanna just keep ideal wedges of cabbage. We have our cabbage cut up into wedges. We're gonna take it over to our roasting pan to sear. We're gonna turn our pan onto high heat so that we can sear our cabbage. I'm gonna add some grapeseed oil. You can use canola oil or any high smoke point oil. Now that our oil is slightly smoking, we're gonna add our cabbage. And remember, we're searing the cabbage, so please don't overcrowd the pan. We're going to season it liberally with some kosher salt. You don't want to salt the cabbage too early, or it will pull out too much water. And then when you put the cabbage into your roasting pan with the hot oil, it can be very dangerous and can splatter. That's why I prefer to salt the cabbage in the pan versus salting it beforehand. One thing about charred cabbage that you really can't over char it You almost want it to look burnt. That's how you really get that like nice smoky flavor. The sweetness in the cabbage will really help balance out that charred bitterness, and that's what makes it so delicious. So these are starting to get really nice caramelization on one side, so now I'm gonna flip them over and caramelize the other side. Once I flip the cabbage over, I'm gonna season the other side as well. Now that I've achieved nice color on both sides of the cabbage, I'm gonna turn the heat off, and then we're gonna leave the cabbage in the pan until it's time to roast our chicken. All right, so now that we've pulled our chicken out of the brine and patted it dry, I'm using a little bit of grapeseed oil, and I'm going to put it on the chicken and kind of make sure it's evenly coated. And then we are going to liberally season it with some kosher salt. And now we're going to place our bird in the middle of the roasting pan on top of the cabbage. The chicken is seasoned. I'm going to put it in our preheated oven for 30 minutes. All right, so our chicken's been in the oven for 15 minutes now. I'm gonna check it out and turn it so that it roasts evenly and you get nice even color on the skin. All right, so with our chicken in the oven, it's time to make our salsa verde. We'll start off by dicing one jalapeno. We're gonna take the seeds and ribs out. We just want the nice pepper, and we also don't want it to be too spicy. And if you don't want any heat, you can feel free to omit the jalapeno and you can use a bell pepper or any type of pepper that's not spicy. Next, after our jalapeno has been diced, we can just rough chop these capers. Just run your knife through it. They don't have to be perfect. We're gonna put that in the bowl. We're gonna start chopping our herbs. Always try to cut into your herbs as less as you can to ensure that you don't bruise them. What I like to do is I like to take my bunch of herbs and basically turn it into a very tight ball in my hand, and then just very, very quickly run your knife through it. That will ensure that you have the smallest cut without having to go over it over and over, resulting in bruised herbs. And once again, everything doesn't have to be perfectly cut. This is a rustic yummy condiment that you can just use for anything, and it should be easy. Parsley goes in the bowl. And next we're gonna do our cilantro as well in the exact same way we just cut our parsley. And then the last of the herbs will be some fresh oregano. The oregano has a very powerful flavor, so we're not going to chop as much as the parsley and cilantro. We won't run our knife through the woody stems at the end, but these top stems are still soft enough to where you can just cut them. And we're gonna run our knife through that as well, and we're gonna put that in our bowl. Now that we have all of our herbs, capers, we're gonna take our lemons and we're gonna juice 2 lemons into our salsa verde. Also, this works just as well with lime juice. We're going to add our red wine vinegar and season it with salt. The last step, we're going to add olive oil, enough to just make sure that everything's evenly coated and we have a nice sauce. And we're just going to incorporate everything. Awesome. It's super fresh. You get nice acid from the lemon juice, texture from the capers, and that'll go really well with our rich roasted chicken and cabbage. All right, so our chicken is finished roasting and our cabbage is nice and caramelized and charred on the outside. Now we can plate this up family style. All right, so the first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna place all of this nice caramelized charred cabbage on the bottom of the plate. It's nice and braised out. We have some charred bits, some nice caramelized bits. We'll sauce it with our salsa verde all over the top of the cabbage, just to make sure that there's plenty of salsa verde for the chicken and for the cabbage. And then lastly, we're going to place our chicken on top of the cabbage. So it's very important to let the chicken rest at this point before you slice into it. A good rule of thumb is to always let your meat or chicken rest for half of the time that it took to cook. All right, so our chicken is nice and rested. Now it's time to carve it up and serve a plate. So I'm gonna remove the chicken off of the plate. And there are many ways to carve it. The way that I was always taught and the way that I've always done it is to take the thighs off first. So we're just gonna take those off. And then we'll just carve ourselves a nice piece of the breast. And this should go straight down because we pulled the wishbone out earlier. And then we can build ourselves a little plate. So I'm gonna take a little bit of our cabbage and we'll start off on the bottom. And we can put a little bit of the Salsa Verde on top. And all those roasting juices and resting juices from the chicken all dripped into the cabbage. And then we'll plate our thigh and our breast on top. And there it is, super simple, super tasty, roasted chicken. To me, it doesn't get any better than that. All right, so we just got finished plating our chicken. Let's give it a try. Oh yeah, I can already tell how juicy it is, the cabbage. Yeah, you get nice acid from the Salsa Verde. The cabbage is nice and crispy, sweet. The chicken is very moist because we took the time to brine it. We let it rest the proper amount of time before we carved it. All those little things that go into cooking a simple roasted chicken is really what makes the difference. I mean, it's roasted chicken, it's the best thing ever. So. And once again, I'm Jakub Czyszczon from Garrison Restaurant here in Austin, Texas, and I'll see you next time.